Hey guys, happy St. Patrick's Day. I know it sucks that we all have to stay home. We don't have to, but we probably should. I know this is hitting my friends in the food and bar industry really hard. So my friends in the whole McNelly's group, I hope you guys are doing okay through all this. I hope everybody is doing okay through this weird, surreal, global event that we're all experiencing. It's one of the weirdest things that I've experienced since I've been alive, probably second to 9/11. I mean, obviously the contexts are completely different, but as far as a global response to something that is happening directly around me in my own personal experience, this has got to be number 2. It's very weird. But in honor of St. Patrick's Day and to try and celebrate a little as much as I can, I wanted to do a video about a new shillelagh that I made. Now in this video, I'm going to be using a loose definition of shillelagh. None of my shillelaghs are made out of blackthorn, at least not yet. And with the exception of some that I made in the old days, they're not the traditional look or style of a shillelagh, and that they're not rootwood with a weighted burl on the end. Although I do have one rootwood club, which I'm gonna have to sprint inside and show you. I forgot to bring it outside, so hold, I'll cut here. Got it. This is rootwood. This is made out of a bodark root. It's beautiful. Look at it. It's got a nice curve, beautiful grain in the wood, and this wood it was soaked in fat and smoked, which was the traditional way to harden shillelaghs. And again, this is made out of a bodark root or an Osage orange root, which is one of the hardest woods that natively grows here in Oklahoma. This was made by my friend and former MMA coach, Doug Stokes. So Doug, you animal, if you're out there, thank you so much for this one. I love it. This one my dad made many years ago. He originally made this out of the handle of a shovel, which is apparent if you look at the wide end here. It's a shovel handle that rounds out on the end into a little ball. Now, I don't know what age my dad was, probably in his teens or 20s, and he made this for his grandpa, my great-grandpa, and it was then carried by my grandpa, my father's dad, Floyd. And Floyd, my grandpa, is the one that named it Head Knocker. Hope you can see that. So I burned that in the stick when it became mine. Got passed down through my great-grandpa, my grandpa, my dad, and now me. See, my dad put this leather-wrapped handle on it, really nice, and then all the burn decorations, the initials, the name, all that was my addition. So I'll try to keep this one in the family. But this was my first stick, and this is the one that my hand knows better than any. I played with this my whole life, even when it still belonged to my dad. I think I played with it so much that of me and, you know, my mess of brothers, I was the one that ended up with this, also because I'm the one that's obsessed with sticks. So it kind of made sense. Now, this stick was also passed down through the other side of my family, but it was never a fighting stick. Let's see if I can get the wood grain on this one. This is beautiful, dark hardwood. I have no idea what it is, but it looks almost like ebony, but I doubt that it's ebony, and I'll tell you why. This was a pitchfork that was made by my other great-grandpa, my grandpa Madison Adair, out in eastern Oklahoma, back in the early 1900s, pre-Depression era. He used to forge his own tools, and this was the handle from a hand-forged pitchfork. So I did a pitchfork video some time ago where I actually showed you one of my grandpa Matt's handmade pitchforks that survived. This pitchfork did not survive. This one was left out in the weather, and the pitchfork end of it rusted to nothing, fell apart, and then the shaft had been broken. But I found this wooden shaft on its own with a broken end. I cut the broken end off, and I was so amazed at the weight and the density of this hard wood. I don't know what this is. Let me show you. It was cut from one branch, or from the middle of a tree. You can see the rings where it looks like it was just cut a branch. And then the wood grain is beautiful. It's almost like the East Asian ebony that's got those little veins of lighter colors running through it. Was it Makassar or Macassar ebony? Screep's not here. He's my wood guru. But this is an absolutely beautiful piece of hardwood. Now, I don't know if this dark color was original or if he treated it with some sort of oil or some sort of sealant that is soaked into it and caused it to be so heavy and to weather so well. It does feel like it. It feels like it's been soaked in some kind of an oil. which might explain the extremely dark finish on this wood. I don't know what it is. If you have any ideas, let me know. But in an effort to save what of that destroyed pitchfork I could, I just cut off a piece of the handle, and I hope my great-grandpa Madison approves when I turn this into a head knocker. Next up, this is probably like the loosest definition of shillelagh. This is absolutely just a club or a cudgel. But this is my combat pencil. I did a video on building this thing. So as you can see, I bought this this fighting stick, this octagonal fighting stick from Purple Heart Armory. They have another website address. I can't remember it off the top of my head. I'll have to link it below. It's in the original video on the combat pencil, which you should look up. But it's got this weighted section of steel pipe at the top, and it's got a rod that Screep and I, like a half-inch steel rod, drilled through and peened on the ends. So all I have left to finish this thing is to polish up and cut the grooves on a grinding wheel so that it actually looks like the ferrule of a pencil, and then figure out some sort of an end cap. I want it to be realistic, like an eraser. The whole point of this was to make a pencil that sort of looked like a pencil, but was also a deadly fighting weapon, which is why I went to the trouble of embedding and sharpening a steel rod for the lead. This lead is actually a 6-inch steel rod that goes quite a bit of ways up into this pencil, and is sharpened on the end and just painted black. That way the pencil is not only an excellent club, but you can two-hand it and almost use it like, you know, for hooking, or almost like you're half sorting, but you're half sorting with a mace, essentially. So you're just using it for short stabbing attacks, and that steel rod on the end is going to act like a force multiplier, almost like a glass breaker. Now the whole purpose of this video, which the title will let you in on, is to show you Hup the Spoonlelagh. This was made by my dad also, Colonel Dad out there. He just makes shit all the time. That's how I started making shit. So you'll see his initials and his symbol there, the KLD. I'm not going to tell you what it stands for. He's Colonel Dad to you. But, where is it? There we go. I also burned Hup into it. I named this Hup after the character in Netflix's Dark Crystal series, which if you haven't watched it, it's an amazing series. I loved the original Dark Crystal as a kid. The series is even better. I don't know how they managed it, but they stuck to the original material, and they respected it. But they added so much more, and they fleshed out the world in such a beautiful way. And my favorite character was Hup, the podling, because he was smaller than everyone, but he was never afraid. You know, he had nothing but courage, and he was always willing to fight when he had to, and he always fought with a big wooden spoon. He actually goes through 2 wooden spoons in the show, because at one point he breaks his original spoon and then has to steal an upgrade from a bar out of a cauldron. So Hup is small, so the spoon is actually a good-sized weapon for him. So I told my dad, I want a wooden spoon big enough that I could use it as a club and that it would be effective in combat. A spoonlelagh, if you will. But I also want it to look and function like an actual big cauldron spoon, because the whole point of the pencil or the spoon, it's just getting creative with fighting implements. It's creating something that can also be something else. I mean, if I ever had a cauldron for whatever reason and I needed to make giant pots of beans, this spoon would work for that. But I could also fight off the goblins that tried to steal my beans. Now that pencil is obviously not going to work as a pencil. It was never intended to write, although that's a good idea for a future video. But I just wanted it to look like, as much like a pencil, like one of those big novelty pencils that you'd see on somebody's shelf. But then if you had to, you know, defend the schoolhouse, you just take that little novelty pencil off the shelf. Nobody knows it's actually a purpose-designed cudgel with a striking tip. Well, the same thing with this spoon. So Dad made this out of a cricket bat. And I could not tell you what wood. I think it was willow. I believe maybe cricket bats are made out of willow. Some of my friends out there that actually have played cricket or know a bit more about cricket will need to let me know in the comments. But it was a cricket bat, and you can kind of see it a little bit if you look at it from the side. And he just carved off the excess bat and then carved the profile of the spoon and dug out the spoon hole. One of the most interesting things about this spoon club to me is the fact that it's actually made of 2 different woods. Here you can see a triangle of a different wood. See that? So the handle, which is mostly covered, is actually a harder wood. It's a completely different, much harder, almost like what an American baseball bat would be made out of, like a very fibrous, hard wood that is not very smooth to the touch. And then the bottom half of this feels like a much lighter weight, spongier, that must be the willow. It's a hell of a lot lighter weight, and I was worried that it doesn't feel as hard because it doesn't have as pronounced a grain, and it just looks a lot smoother, a lot smaller grain. But so far, everything I've been smacking with it seems to do well. And obviously a cricket bat is made to hit a cricket ball, and I've never held a cricket ball, so I don't know what they're made of, but I imagine they're some form of hard leather or rubber or something, like a baseball or a softball. So, you know, if the wood's designed to take that impact, I have no doubt that it would do what I want it to. But right now, this is primarily just my workout club and my play club. And yeah, thanks, Colonel Dad. This is Hup the Spoonlelagh. Happy St. Patrick's Day, everybody. I encourage you to go out into the world and make your own fighting implements out of wood or whatever you have available. And if you get bored and you want to get creative and make a giant spoon or a giant pencil or some other form of weapon that looks like something else, link me and let me know about it. I'd love to see it. Thanks a lot.